Chase me, Susie! Chase me!
Good.
It is what it is. Let's move on. Let's get into the juicy bits. Juicy.
أمر شغل الناس كثيرا وفتن الناس كثيرا.
So he's obviously asked about Bitcoin and crypto, and he's saying this is something which is busied many people and caused a trial and tribulation for many people. Now, one of the things, first things you must always stipulate or point out in these kind of fatwa is the broad nature of the fatwa. Crypto. We are talking about Bitcoin, not crypto. Crypto is a whole category, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of things inside that. Some things are outright scams and Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes. Some of them are good attempts at something, but used in a scammy way. And some things are just projects, whatever. The point is, it's everything. So to have an opinion on the whole sector will be very difficult. It'd be very difficult to have one single view on all of them, because they will all by its very nature be different. So take that as a pinch of salt as we progress in this conversation.
وهو ما يسمى بالعملات الرقمية أو العملات الإلكترونية.
So the Sheikh is talking about, we have currencies, what's called umla, currency, al-raqmiyya. So in Arabic, they call cryptos umla raqmiyya, a number currency. Is that a good way of describing it? A number currency? Yeah, I guess it's a currency which its units are just numbers. Maybe. Okay. And then he has al-umla al-elektroniya, electric money. And he's gonna explain the difference between the two.
وقبل أن أتكلم عن العملات الإلكترونية أقول يا إخوة في المصطلحات الدارجة والموجودة هناك النقود الإلكترونية.
So before he gets into the definition of crypto, there is something called electronic money.
هناك العملات الرقمية.
So he's just making a distinction between the two, and he's saying that this is a very important part. Istilahat. The Sheikh mentioned the word istilahat, the technical definitions or meanings. When you discuss things in fiqh, you need to be precise. Precision is important. And therefore we have certain definitions or words which has to carry meaning, and then we discuss on that meaning. So, for example, if I said to you, a nice-looking woman, for example, and I mention that word specifically, you see in a minute, a nice-looking woman, if you don't understand the meaning of a word woman, then you can't understand where I'm coming from. If for you, a man could be a woman, then I could be saying a nice-looking man as well. If the definition of woman is not precise and known, then the conversation can't continue. Which is actually one of the reasons why one of the paths of shaitan is to distort the istilahat, or to distort words and language. But we move on.
ويجب التفريق بينهما. النقود الإلكترونية.
Yeah, you just need to make sure that you don't mix up the definitions of umla raqmiyya, which is what we call cryptocurrencies, and umla elektroniya, electronic currencies. Yes, Sheikh says make a distinction between the two. We'll see why he says that.
هي الوسائط الإلكترونية التي تحتوي النقود المتعارف عليها.
So it says electronic money are the means whereby we transact with the money we have today. So essentially he's saying that we have money we have today, the fiat we have today. There is an electronic version of that which allows us to transact with this fiat that's in our hands. That's essentially what he's saying. Now, for those of you who know a bit more about cryptocurrencies or about money and banking and the rest of it, you may notice something here already. Just started, you may know something here already. Is that electronic money is a means, it's a wasila, it's a means to facilitate the transaction of the real money. So I guess the question will be, so what do we say now that 97% of all money in existence has no physical form? And in that case, is there really a difference between electronic money on the bank balance or on your screen, in your bank account, and the physical paper?
وسائط إلكترونية جديدة تحتوي في داخلها النقود المتعارف عليها الذي فيها دنانير.
Yeah, so the new form of electronic money contains within it the money we know in every day. So yeah, the money we come to know and be acquainted with.
لكنها وسائط جديدة.
that has dinar and dinanir.
وسائط إلكترونية مثل
However, they are just wasila, as in the ways to the means to achieve the goals. Yeah.
البطاقات الائتمانية بأنواعها.
Like credit cards.
فهذه في الحقيقة.
And it's different types. So, good point. So, this credit cards, essentially saying that credit cards is like a means to spend the money we currently have. So the question is that really what happens? Is that really what's going on? And this is what I want people to look at this fatwa and to look at the description of what we know and see if it matches up. Because there's nothing wrong with the Shaykh knowledge, that's a fact. But the tasawwur, the perception. There is a very important principle I always mention over and over again. Al-hukmu ala shay' far'un an tasawwurihi. The ruling on something is not only an extension of your perception of the thing. If your perception is incorrect, then your rule is only going to be in regards to or in perspective to that incorrect thing. And if your perception is correct, then your rule will be based on that correct perception. So back to credit cards. Credit cards are a means for us to spend the money we currently have. Or credit cards are a means to take out loans and spend your money you have later on. I mean, that would probably be another way of describing it.
ليست نقودا بذاتها وإنما هي وسائط.
So this electronic money is not really money in itself, in its essence.
وأما النقود فهي العملات الموجودة.
But they're only a means to middlemen, the thing in the middle between us and the thing we actually want.
فهذه.
As for real money, then it's the currency. As for the real money, then it's the currency. So he's saying electronic money is a means to spend the actual currency, but the electronic money isn't the currency. You get that? So he's saying that the electronic money is a means to spend the actual real currency, but electronic money isn't the currency itself. That's what the Sheikh is saying. Those of you may know more about the banking system and how it works would know that realistically, this fiduciary media is all different types and they're all pretty much the same thing. But let's continue. There's lots to continue.
يعني من جهة أصلها جائزة لكن يبقى النظر في التعامل بها.
So in principle, Sheikh is saying it's permissible to use this electronic money. It's permissible to use electronic representations of your money in an account to achieve your goal you want. So my actual money is in the bank account. It's sitting there. I'm using this electronic money to facilitate the spending of that money. That's what the Sheikh is saying. Yeah.
هل هو طريق؟
So basically saying in principle that's fine. If that's how it is, then that's fine. And I guess you can almost bring in that analogy like in the past with gold. Gold's in the vault. I'm using this check to transact. So we can see here there's a parallel in his understanding and the
شرعية أو ليست شرعية. لكن لا نريد أن.
So now we have to. Now we've discussed. Obviously, that electronic money is in principle fine. Then we can discuss what's the ruling of.
الآن. وأما
Is it permissible Islamically or not permissible? So now that we've decided, or we've agreed that what it is, I mean, as the Sheikh said, now we see what it is it permissible to do it? But again, I would say, if you look at how banks work, how credit cards work, how this electronic money works, is it really a means to transact with something else or not? I mean, okay, let me just get to the point. When you go to the bank and you spend, like at Tesco's, information, essentially messages sent to the bank of the transaction, and things are done in the background to, you could say, facilitate to communicate between your bank and the merchant's bank that I have the money, you're going to make a transaction, it's going to be in your bank account, and then the transaction is concluded, and at some later date the bank actually settles the final transaction, this final settlement later on. So from that perspective, like in debit cards, that's essentially how it works. Credit cards a bit different because obviously you're taking out credit, you're taking out a loan, and then you just pay back that loan at a later date. But the point here is, by the very nature of the actual bank balances, there is no final settlement at transaction. There's a middle thing. There's a thing going on in between which leads to final settlement at a later date. So that's, from that perspective, the Sheikh is correct. Whether or not it's any different though,
العملات الرقمية.
but the Sheikh doesn't want to get into that discussion right now, so that's fine.
فهي نقد حاسوبي.
As for cryptocurrencies or digital currencies or
إلكتروني يقوم على حسابات,
then it is a currency that is a computer-based currency. He says naqd hasubi. So he's describing it in Arabic, but obviously it's not. It's a new thing. So, however, generally speaking, in Arabic, you describe things as they are, as in description would be as they are, and very straightforward in its description. For example, al-mir'ah, a mirror, comes from the word ra'a, which means to see, on the pattern of mif'ala, which is the pattern of a tool. So if you put that together, a tool and see, then a mirror is just a tool to see. So its name of a mirror is actually describing what the thing does. So same thing here, saying that it's a currency which is a computer-based currency. It's describing what.
معقدة يصعب كشفها ومجالها.
So it happens, or the currencies occur on very complicated calculations, I guess you could say. That's what it says here, complicated accounts. Let's look at
الشبكات الإلكترونية.
It's difficult to uncover these accounts.
يعني انتبهوا يا إخوة، هي أولا عملات,
and it exists on this network, this electronic network. So already we're seeing a perception here which may not be reflective entirely of reality. But again, the problem here is the Sheikh is talking about cryptocurrencies, and that may be true of some, like Monero, for example. It's difficult to decipher whose account and what's actually happening in the transactions when you're selling something due to its the ring thing. I forgot what they call it. I'm not a Monero fan, but all that Zcash using oh, my mind's going blank. Why is it going blank? Using ZK Snarks. Anyway, point is, what's actually happening? There's a level of privacy within the transactions that you can't necessarily observe what's happening. So yeah, but if we were to draw this question back into Bitcoin, not all cryptocurrencies, but specifically Bitcoin, then we would say actually the accounts of Bitcoin is very straightforward. It's not difficult. It's very straightforward to see what's actually happening. There's nothing obscure about the transaction of Bitcoin. So the Sheikh is correct. As a whole, there are definitely some cryptocurrencies where the actual accounts are obscure and hard to see, but that's not the same case with all or even most, and definitely the case of Bitcoin. And it does exist on the network, on an electronic network, but the caveat being you don't need the internet specifically for it to work. Bitcoin can work on radio, it can work on telephone, work on...
رقمية تعتمد على أرقام حسابية معقدة جدا.
So it says, pay attention. First and foremost, it is a number-based currency.
يصعب كشفها. وأيضا
And this network or this thing, this currency depends on complicated accounts, very complicated accounts. Yeah.
مجالها هو الشبكة الإلكترونية. يعني
It's difficult to reveal these accounts, difficult to see these accounts. So again, bringing it back to Bitcoin, I'm focusing on Bitcoin here. That's not the case with Bitcoin. You can see exactly what happens to the accounts. It's straightforward. Every transaction is literally what's called a UTXO, or unspent Bitcoin transaction. You see one Bitcoin comes in here and the other side, half goes here and half goes. You can literally see exactly what's happening. So there's nothing difficult about it. I mean, the only difficulty in Bitcoin really is only in the proof of work. Finding that nonce, that specific number that finalizes the block, that can only be found through trial and error. That's the only thing difficult about Bitcoin, but beyond that, everything else is open and transparent and visible to all.